Week 41, victory demands the courage of conviction. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Jesus Christ said in the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 10, "Think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And the man's foes shall be they of his own household. He that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he that loveth son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he that taketh not his cross and followeth after me is not worthy of me. He that findeth, that is to say, that clingeth to his life, shall lose it, and he that loseth, in other words, that giveth up his life for my sake, shall find it." God tests the firmness of our faith. The sword described here is the sword of discrimination. The struggle Jesus describes it is not a war against unknown enemies, but the struggle with our own attachment to all that is nearest and dearest to us, humanly speaking. Ultimately, it is a war against the ego itself and against anything with which we surround ourselves to bolster the ego's fragile sense of security. When Yogananda, as a boy, fled to the Himalayas to embrace a life of solitary meditation, he was apprehended by his older brother Ananta and brought home again. At a certain point, before he would accept defeat, he whispered to his friend Amar, his companion on the flight, "Let us slip away when opportunity offers. We can go on foot to Rishikesh." But Amar, whose brother had accompanied Ananta, had turned pessimist, disclaiming any intention of continuing their adventure. Yogananda's memorable comment on Amar's refusal was, he was enjoying the familial warmth. The spiritual warrior rejects that familiar warmth. Rather, he claims the whole universe as his home. As the Bhagavad Gita puts it in the 14th chapter, unaffected by outward joys and sorrows, or by praise and blame, secure in his divine nature, regarding with equal gaze a clod of mud, a stone, and a bar of gold, impartial toward all experiences, whether pleasant or unpleasant, firm-minded, untouched by either praise or blame, treating everyone alike, whether friend or foe, free from the delusion that in anything he does, he is the doer. Such an one has transcended nature's triune qualities. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Thank you, Arzu, for reading that so courageously when we switched it on you. And again, hello, Naya Swami Shivani. Again, Shivani is joining us here from Ananda Assisi. She's working on a film project here in Los Angeles, and we're blessed to have her for the next 2 months about. She'll be giving Sunday service over her time here, and again, also many classes. She came to Ananda in 1969. And as you may know, its official date was 1969. So we're very glad to have you with us. My name is Dharmaraj, and this is my wife Dharmini. And we're very glad to welcome you today, also those of you online. Today's topic, victory demands the courage of conviction. And I thought to first have us think about what is the victory? I mean, if we need to have the courage of conviction, to what end? For victory. Well, what is the victory after all? It's described in that passage in the Gita, but both of the passages today, the Bible one about bringing the sword just like we all brought before the service when we sang, the Sword of Freedom, and then also the Gita passage, both require some understanding, I think. Certainly they did for me the first time I heard them. The sage is impartial towards all experiences, whether pleasant or unpleasant, and regards a bar of gold, a friend, a clod of clay equally. So when I first read that, I thought, okay, so I guess the answer is I mustn't feel. I will be inwardly unaffected by praise or blame or anything. I just won't feel. And in fact, that's even a easy road to kind of follow, because we talk about being impersonal and deeply centered and unruffled. And someone asked Swami Kriyananda once, does this mean that I should numb myself to all feeling? And Swamiji said, of course not. What the Gita is saying is that when we achieve victory inwardly, we feel so happy that our happiness is unaffected by any outward circumstance. And you see that in the lives of peaceful people. You see that in the life of Swami Kriyananda, and I'm sure we've all experienced that in our own lives. Whether we've had a very happy experience or whether we've had a deep meditation and we come out of our meditation room and somebody goes, "Ah!" and we say, well, I'm so sorry, sure, I'll go buy the milk, or I'll go fix the thing, or I wasn't referring to Dharmini, just to be clear. As Haridas said in referring to Roma, she's not his better half, she's his higher self. And so, but that happiness we want, of course, and it's easy to want that. And therefore, to say, I would love to stand unshaken amidst the crash of breaking worlds, because I would love to feel so peaceful and so joyous that I wouldn't be affected. One of Yogananda's disciples was at a concert, and she, when she first met Yogananda, had this incredible ecstatic vision. She went for weeks sort of seeing his face in the mirror when she looked in the mirror, just kind of floating. Obviously, he had reawakened some past life samskars, some connections for her. And they were at this concert, and she was if I have the story right, she was an expert musician, and she heard the orchestra, they were all there, and they were playing horribly. Somehow, I don't know how, but they were out of tune, or they were off the... And she said, listen to how wonderfully they're playing. And she meant it, because she could experience that joy in herself. Any joy we feel, after all, is a joy that we give to that experience. And we know that because, for example, someone gives you your favorite food, and like I had some of my favorite food last night, and I was, But when we're sick, and then someone says, hey, would you like a little chocolate chip cookie? And just, no, please, no. I have no joy to give to it. So again, it's very empowering because our joy wells up from within. Now how? Well, that's where we go to the first part. Victory demands the courage of conviction. It takes courage and strength. Very often on the spiritual path and very often on these Sunday mornings, we're talking about calmness, mildness, being patient, being kind. And those are all important and is equally true as being courageous. And we can stand up with great courage against great opposition with great willpower without the requirement of also becoming angry. So again, just to clarify in what I'm going to say. So Jesus says, think not that I have come to bring peace on earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. In the biblical context of this, he was sending the disciples out to different cities. Go to this city, speak of my teachings. People may be mad at you. People may throw rocks at you. Go leave if they do. And on and on. So that he was basically talking again to the disciples. And when he spoke to the disciples, he spoke differently than when he spoke out to the crowds. And he said, think not I've come to bring peace. And we think, well, that seems kind of the opposite of so much of the rest of his teachings. What about the Lamb of Peace? What about all of the peace that these teachings bring within ourselves? And then he goes on to say, I have come to set a son against his father, and a mother against her daughter, and even the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law too. And so we have to sort of ask ourselves, what is this all about? I mean, he didn't literally advocate the disruption of the family unit. And in fact, some people have said that Jesus was the first revolutionary and that this proves that he advocated violence and this proves that he was against families and all these things. But of course that's not the case. We somehow know in our hearts it's not the case. But why? What did he mean then? Well, I'm going to talk about it on two levels, as the reading also says. There is an outward level where sometimes we do have to stand independently from our birth families. We never have to renounce them, we never have to reject them, but sometimes we do have to follow our own path. And also then, all of this though, because this may apply to you if you've had a challenging family, it may not apply to you, because you may be in a family of devotees who all believe the same thing and are thrilled. We had that in India. There was a father, a mother, and a daughter, and they all came to the free lecture about Kriya Yoga, and they all were interested, and they all sat separately in the audience so as not to influence each other by their reactions. And then they said, if whoever wants to go can go, and then, so that at the end they all kind of came and compared notes and kind of said, well, I would like to go too, and so they all came, and they all took Kriya together over the course of a year, and they actually opened up a center in their town of Bangalore, and it's there to this day. So some people have those experiences, not everyone, certainly not me. But again, to say that if that isn't your challenge, family's great, all supportive, wonderful, and God bless you, and congratulations, and we won't even say if we're a little jealous. But at the same time, we have to remember there's also the inner qualities, our inner attitudes, those things that we hold precious, that have to also be faced and sometimes released in our quest for the divine, our quest for that ultimate bliss that's unshakable. So, if you need to apply that in that context, do, and I'll say a little more about that. In terms of family can be a big challenge on the spiritual path. And if you think about it, even the most well-intentioned family, I was speaking to someone recently who was saying, I would like to move into an ashram. I'd like to move into a community and be part of a spiritual community. And when I told my parents this, my parents who have always been supportive of everything I've ever done, she said, they completely flipped out. And keep in mind, she's 50 years old. I mean, and so they say, "Why, I can't believe, how could you do this to me?" And she was so confused. But obviously, a parent could feel a rejection. If we are looking to expand our sense of family beyond our birth family sometimes can. Now wait a second here. Swami Kriyananda said, I know my family would have been much more at peace if I had just become a drunkard. He said, then they would have said, oh, well, too bad. Maybe you shouldn't, but oh well. Because what he did do was a challenge to them. Who are you to say you want to live in a bigger picture? Who are you to say that what we have is not enough? And he never said that out loud, but his actions brought up that challenge. And so we have to understand that when we have challenges from family, that they're often kindly meant. But I myself once asked Swamiji, why is it that I fear people and their power to hurt me? Because when I was coming on the path, I faced a lot of opposition from family, friends, colleagues, everything. And he said, well, because you think that when they give you advice, that they are holding your own best interests in mind. He said, but very often they're not. And it's not a bad thing, but most of us can't even see beyond the horizon of our own experience. They're thinking of their own best interests. And it would be inconvenient to say, my son was at MIT and what does he do now, kind of thing. And so we find that a lot, actually. One woman who sent her kids to our school in Palo Alto and on to school there said, I'm just so embarrassed to tell people what school they go to. And we said, but you love this school. I know. And you, the one who brought them here. I know. And they're totally like brilliant kids. I know. But still, it's not a name brand. And so we have to face all these little small thoughts in ourselves. Again, doesn't really matter what anyone else is thinking. Their thoughts are not hampering us. All of those people who criticized me and said, I can't believe you're doing this, and you owe it to the field. I was going to be a computer scientist. You owe it to the field of computer science. Which another computer scientist said to me, that's ridiculous. How can you owe the field? Who is the field? What is the field? She said, do what you want. But all of those people could have said all those same things to me, and I could have said, well, thanks for the feedback. I'll put it in the suggestion box, and I'm going to hold true to my own vision. There's a wonderful song, Walk Like a Man, Go On Alone, rather, that follow your dream, though it lead to worlds unknown. Life's but a shadow, once our dreams have flown, once we've given up on our dreams. Thank you. What if men cry, your dream is not our own? Your soul knows the answer, go on alone. Because we have to walk our own journey. We have to walk our own path in this life. And sometimes it can be very difficult in the sense of family challenges. And so sometimes I've talked to people and we've kind of had this vision, because after all, our birth family and our friends, of course we want them to, if we find something that gives us a lot of joy, whether it's the spiritual path or something else, we want them to come along. My friends and I in college were trying to figure out the meaning of life, as most college kids do in between classes and homework, and so we would be like philosophizing and analyzing, and what about this, and yes, and I had this experience. And then I read Autobiography of a Yogi, and for me this was just, this was it. And so I said to them, guess what? Autobiography of a Yogi. Where'd everybody go? No thanks, man. That's religion. And I already went through that. One guy even said to me, I went to church and I saw how they all seemed nice, but it was all fake. And so maybe you have to learn that lesson on your own. People aren't really that nice the way they appear on Sunday from 11 to 12. What can you do? So what I did then was I had to go on alone, but I wanted them all to come, because for me this was giving me so much peace. Why wouldn't I want to share it with them? And often when we first get on the path, we do, or any kind of new experience, we try to share with all, but we come up against opposition. Sometimes that opposition is very much there to test us. Sometimes our earthly family is given to us by God, in fact chosen by us. There was a little boy whose mother was on this path, and he was, in a family, and he was very young, and she said something, blah, 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 and he did something wrong, and so she said, go to your room, and he ran to his room, and he slammed the door, and then he opened the door and said, by the way, you weren't even my first choice. And she said, oh, darling, who was your first choice? And he said, a woman in the Philippines, but she was already taken. So I sometimes think, especially with difficult situations, like, I chose this? I chose this? What was I thinking when I chose this? But on the other hand, we can say the challenges we face in life, the challenges that we've chosen, is because our soul said to our ego, you can do it. It's time. Don't you want to be free of this? You're ready. Face it. You'll make it through. So keep that in mind when we're on our knees facing something that seems too big. It's never too big, but it always seems too big. So also in family, we have to think of the people we were born into. Obviously, we have a close connection to them, usually some kind of close connection. It is possible. One guy did say to Swami Kriyananda, I have no connection to my family at all. I never have. This one left and that one. Why would I have that family? And he said, well, sometimes yogis want to be incarnated at a particular time, and they just kind of have to grab whatever body comes along. But often we do. We feel that connection. But why? There is a close connection to this group of souls that we're with. And there is to our parents, we do owe a debt of gratitude. They spent 18 years or 24 years or 50 years of their lives helping us. So I don't mean to imply otherwise. But we have to also remember that it is not necessarily that they are the parents and we are the children. Sometimes even in this life, that role is reversed, especially at the end of life. Sometimes in our understanding, we see beyond where our parents need to see or where our children need to see or see. And in one case I know of, there was two parents in the Palo Alto community who were disciplining their son because in a similar situation he was kind of wild, and they said, listen, he said, well, why do I have to do what you say? And they said, well, these are the rules. And he said, I remember when you were the kids and I was the dad. I don't want to hear it. It very much can be true. Sometimes people will feel that. There was one person who was passing his, he's told the story in public, Raghu Clark, who is the leader of Ananda Sacramento with his wife. His mother was at the end of her life, and throughout his whole life, people had told him how much he reminded them of his grandfather who passed away before he was born. And so they would, he even, I think, had the same name. And one of the last things his mom said to him as she was dying was, she said, "You've been a really good dad." And he always wondered about that. So we don't know, this is just the relationship in this lifetime. We may have been friends together, we may have been enemies together. You may think, well, that's rotten luck. Why would Divine Mother make me incarnate with all my enemies? Just doesn't seem very fair, especially as a kid and all these things. But Yogananda said that Divine Mother does that because it helps you to work out your issues at close quarters. And on a deeper level, it helps us to realize that earthly happiness, that familial warmth, will not satisfy us as much as we want. Our heart wants more, and we'll get more, but not there. Jesus did not say, think not that I have come to bring peace. He said, think not that I have come to bring peace on earth. Earthly peace. The spiritual path is often inimical to earthly peace, only because earthly peace is fleeting. Sri Yukteswar said, human love is selfish, darkly rooted in desires and satisfactions. Divine love is eternal, without change. That's the love we all want. Of course we want that unchanging love. And so this is the way to do it, to be courageous. Now, on an outward level, it may mean that we have to go on alone. We have to distance ourselves. It doesn't mean we have to cut off all communication, doesn't mean we have to leave our families. There are some situations where that is the case, in the sense of if the family is constantly opposing our efforts to meditate, our efforts to better ourselves, constantly bringing us down with criticism, then we have to ask ourselves, when a lower dharma or duty conflicts with a higher duty, the lower one ceases to be a duty. My highest duty, of course, is to my spiritual quest and to my family, and I mean to my spiritual family, but to God. And if this is not in opposition to that, Swami Kriyananda wrote his father a letter, because his father was criticizing him, and he said, "Father, I respect you as my father, but I also am aware of my duty to God as my heavenly Father. Please don't force me to choose." And his father never wrote him another letter. Master's own father, Yogananda's own father, criticized Sri Yukteswar, Yogananda's guru, on some trifle thing, because Yogananda said, out of attachment. You are my son after all. But he criticized him, and Yogananda said, of all things, worldly birth, earthly birth is something, but spiritual birth is everything. If you ever speak another word against my guru, I will disown you as my father. And And his father didn't say another word because he knew he meant it. And his father was a disciple of Lahiri Mahashai. He was a brother disciple of Sri Yukteswar. So it isn't that he was some worldly, crass, crazy person. These little attachments sneak into our hearts. I say that partly because I have been attacked by a worldly, crass, crazy person. Sorry if I didn't really think of that one through as I let that one out. So, even in India, ancient India, Vyasa, who wrote the Mahabharata, which contains the Bhagavad Gita, so the author of the Bhagavad Gita, had a son. And his son said, at the age of 5, I am going off now to find my guru. And Vyasa said, well, I mean, I'm perfectly qualified to be your guru's son. And his son's name, who was Sukdeva, said, get away from me, you reek of Maya. And so Vyasa sent him to another guru, and the story goes on. But because there was that family attachment, and he wanted nothing to do with it. Now, how does this apply on an inward level? It's actually quite easy. We have these intimate feelings, these little things that whisper to us, these little things with which we identify, and we don't have to give those up, right? Gyanamata said, I see no reason why the things that are mine and harm no one, why these too should have to be surrendered in quest of the divine. But it's because these little things are things with which we identify our egos. And our ego is the chief block. The ego is the consciousness of separation from the divine. So it's ironic because we want that ultimate love. We want that bliss that remains unshaken. And we go after it and say, I'm so close. What's holding me back? Well, the ego, I am holding myself back and thinking that it's separate because, for example, Dharmini was just giving this example in a class yesterday. Sometimes if you're practicing Hong Sa, or at other times, you may suddenly feel the breath go out. And you may find yourself not breathing. And an automatic reaction to that can be, I'm not breathing. It's like, what? That's where I want to go. And yet as soon as I stop, if I don't breathe, I don't live. I don't exist. It's just insidious. But with repeated practice and repeated experiences that we get used to these inner states. It's perfectly fine where we are and where we're going. But just to say that the whole Mahabharata war is taking Jesus' statement of pitting someone against his family, is taking it to a very broad level. It's a civil war. It's actually a war in this story, the Mahabharata, between two sides of the same family. And people literally picked sides, just like in the American Civil War. Sometimes two brothers fought on opposite sides. Obviously, it's a heartbreaking situation outwardly, but inwardly it represents our soul qualities versus our ego-born qualities. And so in our lives, we have to ask ourselves, okay, whose side am I giving strength to? Whose side am I encouraging in any moment? And so, for example, when you come out of meditation, or sometimes when I do, and I feel very peaceful, and then I find out that, some horrible thing has happened, like an email didn't get sent and was still in my drafts folder. It's like, okay, whoops, it's okay. It doesn't mean we react perfectly in every situation, but we just pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off. You know what, sorry, never mind, it's fine. And then that's the victory. And of course, meditation makes all of this perfectly easy, because every time we meditate, Yogananda said, the ego's hold on us is weakened. And our identification with our inner, infinite, immortal soul is strengthened. Every time we meditate, he said, not every time we meditate well, or every time we meditate deeply, or every time we meditate for an hour twice a day. Every time we sit to meditate, he said, some karma is burned off. So remember that, especially if I sometimes get frustrated with my meditations. Oh, my mind was babbling the whole time. Well, Yogananda's mind was babbling the day he had samadhi, like leaves in a storm, he said. And that was the day his guru blessed him with that ultimate experience. So, take heart, take courage. The sword is that sword of discrimination, which means separation, truth from error, soul qualities from ego qualities, infinite life versus just this one worldly life. And just use that sword of strength, we can all, to say, I choose you, God. I want to close with whispers from eternity. Bless me that I may perceive Thee through the windows of all joyous activities. Look upon me and cheer me always as I engage in my daily duties. Let my every action, whether waking, sleeping, or dreaming, be sprayed by the fountain of Thy presence. So we'll have our offering now.
Some men call it progress, down with those who doubt. To join the causes others join and shout when others shout. Come, you're a man, no passive stone. Stand up and call your soul your own. Go on alone, go on alone. Banish weakness, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone. Some men lack the daring never to be free. They shun the heights and cloud the depths and court security. Come, you're a man, no passive stone. Stand up and call your soul your own. Go on alone, go on alone. Banish weakness, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone. Cowards see but pride in singularity. Oh, never mind if men are wrong, so long as they agree. Come, you're a man, no passive stone. Stand up and call your soul your own. Go on alone, go on alone. Banish weakness, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone. Claim the power within